Hello everyone, welcome to soundproofguide.com. In this video, I'll be talking about different ways to soundproof a window. Basically, ways that works, and I'll be talking about ways that just doesn't really work for actual soundproofing. There are some things that you can do to a window that is more sound deadening, and it helps inside the room, but it doesn't really do anything to help sound from getting out of your house or, of course, the noise outside coming into your house, or it just doesn't work as well. There are some things that people suggest that just doesn't really work. So we'll talk about what works, what doesn't, and this is a new series in this channel. If you have not yet seen the other what works, what doesn't regarding soundproofing, I've already done a video about doors and also existing walls that you basically don't want to tear up, put something inside, put back together. That's more of a video for existing walls where you just want to do something to the wall without having to do too much construction work, more of a DIY situation. So click the link and you'll be brought to a playlist with the different videos of this subject. So the first thing that you could do to soundproof the window is to actually build a window insert and basically plug the window right off. But what's nice with these types of inserts is you can just build them yourself. All you need is a frame the size of your window casing and just fill that frame up with insulation. You can put some material over it and then just plug it into the window. And in about 2 weeks, 3 weeks time, I will drop a video on exactly how to make a really good window insert that really works. And I'll have some sound test with a sound meter, decibel meter, and we'll be able to see exactly how many decibels it actually stops. So make sure to subscribe and to be notified of that video in a few weeks time. Now, one thing that doesn't really work all that well is curtains. Now, you can buy sound deadening curtains, and what they really are meant to do is to deaden the sound either inside the house or a little bit outside the house. It is a mass that you're putting in front of the window. So yes, there will be a little bit of sound that can be stopped with these types of curtains. Now you're looking at curtains that are a little bit thicker than your regular curtains. Usually they can be called acoustic curtains, or they can be called sound deadening curtains. Usually it's a 3-layer curtains, or at least that's what you should get. Or you can get a curtain that they also call blackout curtains. These works pretty well the same way because it's usually 2 layers of material and a black felt in the middle. So what the black felt does, it's mostly to stop the light from coming in, but it is also to deaden a little bit of the sound trying to come through. Now, one thing that most people really don't realize about just putting some window curtains in front of the window to stop sound is most of the time, the curtains that people buy aren't big enough. The thing is if you have curtains, you will have gaps on either side, on the top and on the bottom. Now, if you're dead set on using curtains or something like a moving blanket, if you really want to plug the wall, would be to actually have it stick on the window casing to make a perfect seal. If you don't do this, then the other option is to get bigger curtains to at least go 6 to even 12 inches past each sides of the window casing and on the top and the bottom. So at least that way you're leaving a lot of space where the sound can be drowned out a little bit. But this would be something that I would say that it doesn't work for soundproofing. If you really want to stop the sound from coming in, if you're sleeping during the day and let's say traffic noise is coming in, just putting a pair of curtains will not do much of anything for your sleep. A window plug, now that's a little bit different because you're really adding mass and adding insulation and plugging the window, but we'll talk about that in another video. Now, something that does work is getting a window insert. Now, a lot of companies, all you need to do is measure the size of the window, measure the size of the casing. Basically, all you do, they give you a sheet of measurements and you basically just follow the steps. You measure whatever they want you to measure, you send that up to them, they make it. Now, these types of things do cost a lot of money, but if you're really serious about soundproofing a window, this is another thing that is, well, this is like a window plug, But what is nice, it doesn't plug the window, so light doesn't come in. Usually window inserts are, well, it just looks like a window over a window. So basically a window insert is not a bad choice if you don't really want to do any DIY construction. Take the measurements, send it to a company, and they basically do the rest for you. If you're not really sure which company to use, I'll have links in the description below of an article on my website, and I give you suggestions on which company to basically use. And in a future video, I will also get one of these companies to send me one of their window inserts. I'm already in talk with some of them, and they will send me an insert, and we'll be able to see exactly how many decibels it stops. I know for a fact that it does work, but just how well it works is something that I've never actually tried scientifically with a decibel meter, so I'll be interested to see the results. Another thing that does work is just using window sealant, or I could call it acoustical sealant. Now this is just caulking, because what people don't realize is houses, they will shift, things will move, and if you just have a caulking around the window casing and around the window that is prone to dry up and crack, well, these minuscule cracks, if air can come through, sound will come through. Now, it's not going to be an immense amount of sound, but if you're spending a lot of money in something like a window insert already, then just buying a tube of acoustical sealant and basically resealing around the casing and around the window might make a little bit of a difference. If there is a gap, it will work. But I mean, obviously the gaps won't be that big in a newer home. But if you live in an older home, you might be surprised that the size of the gap that's around your window, it's not just cold air that's coming in. There's also a lot of sound that comes in. So by sealing that up, you're basically killing two birds with one stone. You're stopping a little bit of the noise coming through, and you will be stopping some cold coming in if you live in a house like mine where it's enveloped in snow. Now, another thing that does not work in soundproofing a window is using acoustical. I talk about these in almost every video because a lot of people are suggesting acoustic foam for soundproofing windows, walls, doors, whatever. It's not a soundproofing piece of material. It's a sound absorbing piece of material. It's an acoustic piece of material. It's not something that you can just put in front of a window and actually have it stop sound. It just does not work that way. It absorbs sound, but it's not really, it's to make a room sound better. It's not to stop sound from going from one room to the other. So I have seen people suggesting acoustic foam panels or even acoustical panels, but at least those are a little bit thicker. But I mean, good luck finding one the size of your window to plug up your window with. I mean, it just doesn't work. It's not really what it's meant for. So another thing that does not really work in soundproofing a window is a window insulation kit. You can buy these kits on Amazon, and all it is just clear film. It's almost like putting a piece of saran wrap in front of your window. And this is mostly, people buy these because they're very inexpensive. You can do it DIY, and it's not a bad thing to buy if you just don't have the resources to insulate your window. I've seen a lot of older houses that all they use is window insulation kit, and you know what? There's nothing wrong with that because they're cheap. You can just put it on yourself, and it will stop the draft from coming in. The cold will stay, while some of the cold will stay between the window and the insulation film. So just think about it. It's just like putting a piece of saran wrap in front of your window. That's the shape of the window. You're actually putting it on the frame. You're putting it around the frame, so there is a gap between your window and the film. But all it does, it just stops the draft. It stops a little bit of the cold from coming in. Of course, if you stop the draft, you can stop a little bit of the sound from coming in through the draft, but the film is just not thick enough to actually be able to do anything regarding actual soundproofing. But if you're looking to just insulate a window, then this isn't the worst thing that you can do to insulate a window. There are worse ways. We won't be talking about that in this video though. But anyway, I'll have a link in the description below of this very product if you want to insulate your window, but not soundproof your window. Just won't work. Of course, another way that everybody mentions that works for soundproofing in a window is getting rid of your window. If you don't need the window, and you really need your sleep, sometimes you just have to make a compromise. Get rid of the window completely. Usually you'll just hire somebody. What they do, they just get rid of the window, get rid of the window frame, fill it up when you wouldn't even know that there was a window there if it was done properly. However, what's the point? You're here to watch a video about how to soundproof the window. To get rid of the window is usually not really an option, but I figured I'd mention it because sometimes it's just something that you just don't think about. And when somebody says it to you, you might think, well, I really don't need that window after all. What I do need is my sleep if you work shift work. So think about it. Another thing that doesn't really work is by blocking the window with furniture. Now, some people say that you can block the window with furniture. It just doesn't really work. Of course, it's free if you already have the furniture, but what are you gonna do? Like, just prop up a couch and put it on the I'm not sure how you would even do that, but some people have mentioned it, as you saw. So let's just keep going. Now, another thing that works very well to soundproof a window is weather stripping. Now, the one that I usually buy is just the wider weather strip that you can separate. You can see it on your screen. It's the rubbery one. It's self-adhesive. And if the gaps are a bit too wide, that for the acoustical caulking, then obviously you'll need something to get rid of that gap, and weather stripping is the perfect way to do it. You just put it where you need it. Usually you put it around the window, you can put it around the window casing. It really doesn't matter. Just fill the gaps and you'll notice that you're not just, again, getting rid of a draft, you will be getting rid of a little bit of the sound that's trying to come through. Of course, it's not going to work as well as a window plug or a window insert, but this also works in conjunction with that, because if you're going to buy a window insert or something of the sort that you're already spending a few $100s, then you have to seal those gaps, because what's the point in getting rid of 30 decibels when you can get rid of 35 with just adding another few dollars and something that you can just do by yourself, and it's just done. So do it. Another thing that doesn't really work that well is to cover the window with a soundproof window blanket. Again, the reason why I say it doesn't work is just it can work if you buy the proper thing and you install it properly. The reason why it usually doesn't work is because usually people don't really buy the proper thing. Because if you buy a specifically made, can be made specifically for soundproofing, but 99% of them that you find online are really not made that much for it. It's just a thick blanket, and it really won't do much in terms of soundproofing. The types of soundproof blankets that you can, or sound deadening blankets that you can buy, some of them actually have different types of insulation in them, and in between the insulation there is a layer, usually some type of foil. So that does stop a little bit of sound, but again, you need to be able to install it properly. Basically, the best way to install something like that is by buying industrial Velcro and literally sewing the Velcro, one side of the Velcro, on the material. Of course, you can't really, if it's a self-adhesive, it doesn't really matter. You can't take the piece of Velcro and just stick it right on the material. It just won't stick. It won't stick over time. It might stick for 2 minutes, but it just doesn't stick on material. So that's why I say if you can sew it, then sew it. If you can also staple it, it just doesn't look as good, but it does work. And then you basically stick it right on the window frame. Then it creates an actual seal. Now, I will be getting something of this sort from a company in a future video that I will actually be testing on a window and seeing how many decibels it actually stops. I'll be putting it on the window the way that most people put it on the window, because it comes with grommets, so most people just hang it in front of the window. It doesn't work. If you just hang it in front of the window, it just won't work, because most of these window soundproof acoustic blankets are usually made to fit the window frame. Usually they're about 4 inches wider, so you have a little bit of room to play. But again, if you just hang it, the sound is just going to come through the sides, the bottom, the top, it doesn't really matter. You have to install it the right way. You have to seal it. You have to stick it. And some people say, oh, well, it doesn't look good. Well, then just use something else. Because if it won't look good if you just hang it there either. It just doesn't look good, period. But if you're looking to soundproof the window, so another sure way to help soundproof the window that does work is to replace your window with a double or triple pane window. Now, these types of windows, well, I mean, I have a video right up here that explains everything about these types of windows, how they work, how much they cost, where can you get them. So click on that video to be more informed on different double or triple window panes. But just to give you a little example, what it is, it's just different sheets, different layers of windows in the same window. So basically you have two layers. You have some gas in the middle, or you have the triple layers, which you have two layers of gas in between the three layers of window. So what this does is, of course, air is an insulator. So by having these, well, if you're going to be soundproofing the window, I would definitely suggest the triple pane. And what this does, you'll have two layers of air in between three layers of window. So sometimes if you go to a airport hotel, you'll notice that you open the sliding glass door and wow, it is very noisy out there. And then you close it and you're amazed by how much noise doesn't come through the window. Well, that's because you'll notice also that type of glass is quite thick, and that is what they use in hotels, in airport hotels, to basically stop noise from coming into the room. These are a little bit more expensive, of course, but again, if you're serious about soundproofing the window and you're at your wit's end, then just replacing the window with this type of window will make a big difference. If you just don't really want to go with window plugs or window inserts that can basically cost almost as much as a brand new window, it is a good thing to look into. So take measurements, bring it to your local hardware store, talk to them, bring it to a window store, talk to them, and you might be surprised at just how easy you can get that window soundproofed. Hiring somebody, they will come in, replace the window for you, and you might just be quite surprised at how much noise is staying outside. Or if you have a basement and you like to throw rave parties, then you don't want too much sound coming out. Of course, that won't really help with the bass, but the ground should help with that. Anyway, replace your window. If it's an old window, just replace it. If you have the money, of course. If not, there's other options. Not options that works quite as well, of course, but there's other options nonetheless. So there you have it. If you like this type of content, make sure to subscribe, like, and leave a comment, of course, because of course I want to hear what you have to say, but it also really helps the channel analytics from YouTube's standpoint to push my content if it has those signals that my content is good. So it really does help smaller content creators in growing. So I really appreciate your help. Make sure to do it to me and to all of your favorite YouTubers out there, because we're all doing the same thing, trying to survive. Thanks a lot.